So we're moving on, everybody. So up for discussion now is the matter involving 7 police officers who have been freed of extortion charges after the police prosecutor failed to show. So joining us now is a gentleman you know very well, attorney at law Martin George, also a former member of the Police Service Commission and the current chairman of the Tobago Chamber. Mr. George, as always, thank you very much for speaking with us. We do appreciate it.
Hi, good morning to you, Marlon, and good morning to all your viewers on TV6, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, so Mr. George, what's your reaction to this ruling here involving these 7 police officers?
Well, Marlon, more importantly, I would want to know what is the reaction of the TTPS hierarchy, being the Commissioner of Police and the Deputy Commissioners of Police, because at the end of the day, this is a scandal for the police service. Because first of all, to even have a situation where, if you recall, initially there were 9 officers who were investigated. Of the 9, they charged 7. And you have the matter going through the court system, and then now for it to be dismissed by the presiding judicial officer on the basis that the police did not do what they were supposed to do, repeated deadlines were missed, the evidence was not put forth, witness statements were not put forth, and it seems clearly to be a failure of the police to police this matter properly. So, I would have expected by now that you would have seen some statement from the Commissioner of Police saying, well, look, this is definitely going to be investigated. The officers who failed to do their duty in this regard will be held accountable, and there ought to be some sort of sanction. But the thing is, I have seen or heard nothing in that regard from the hierarchy of the police service. So therefore, I am wondering, is it that they consider this to be the norm? Because this cannot be acceptable for the public of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly when the matter concerns the issue of extortion. Extortion is something that has been on the front burner nationally. It's something that the police themselves have indicated that they have formed a unit to deal with extortions and to handle these things. And they are still, now you have a scenario where people have been charged and then the police themselves are at fault for not letting the matter, go forward. I mean, that is outrageous. How is a business person supposed to feel?
I'm seeing this morning where one of the dailies is reporting that the Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP Suzette Martin, she has ordered a report into the collapse of the corruption case against the 7 police officers. So you have that assurance, or you have that statement coming from DCP Suzette Martin. And of course, at that time, when this investigation began, she was head of the Professional Standards Bureau. But Mr. George, I think that people do have the impression here this morning that someone has dropped the ball. And I want to ask it in the context.
Well, Marlon, if I could just interject. Yes. It may not just be a case of someone dropping the ball. I think they buried the ball and hid it away. That's what it looks like. No, this ball didn't fall out. This is not a case of the ball falling out of somebody's hands. This appears almost to be a criminal conspiracy to ensure that this matter doesn't go forward. Because how do you explain a matter as serious and as important as this? Are you telling me that there were no senior officers managing and superintending this case? When this judicial officer gave previous warnings, previous deadlines, previous guidance saying, listen, you must do this by this date, isn't there somebody higher up who will say, hey, listen, you are not going to mess up this case, the first of its kind, the extortion type matter, and 7 senior officers, and you have, this embarrassing scenario unfolding? This is not a dropped ball. Somebody took the ball and buried it and hid it away.
Yeah. Because I think, Mr. George, it could give the impression that preferential treatment may have been given in connection with this matter, because you know what people are going to say, and they have already started saying that, Mr. George, that this is a situation, I am not saying it, people out there are saying it, where this is really, or would have been an attempt by the police to protect the police.
Well, Marlon, and the thing is, these are the things which erode the public trust and confidence in the TTPS. Because how is a business person supposed to feel comfortable now in light of this to go forward and report any instances of extortion if it is that the business person begins to feel that, look, you have police on the inside protecting police in the issues of extortion, right? Marlon, I'll give you a case. There is the Privy Council case of Jamaicans for Justice versus the Police Service Commission in Jamaica, right? Where this group of, civil rights advocates, they had made complaints to the Police Service Commission in Jamaica about misconduct of certain officers, one of whom the Police Service Commission had nominated for promotion. And the group called upon the PSC. They said, listen, no, you need to investigate these allegations against him. The PSC did a very cursory and perfunctory investigation, very superficial, and they dismissed the claims of the group. And the group said, no, you need to do a full and thorough investigation. The matter went all the way to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council ruled that oversight bodies such as the Police Service Commission must do full and thorough investigations into matters such as these. So in other words, there is law and precedent to show that this type of thing must be investigated. The Privy Council ruled so in that case, Jamaicans for Justice against the Jamaican Police Service Commission. So I want to cite that for this Commissioner of Police, our Commissioner of Police and her deputies, to let them know that the law mandates that they must investigate these types of matters. So, and it must not just be a superficial investigation. They must do a full and thorough investigation and give a full and proper accounting to the public. Otherwise, they can be taken to court using that case as a precedent. That Jamaicans for Justice
So
case.
Is it then that our Police Service Commission has a role in this matter?
Well, obviously, because remember, the person who was in charge of things at the start of this matter was the same deputy, Suzette Martin, right? And the Police Service Commission has the oversight in terms of the commissioner and the deputy commissioners of police. So therefore, the newly installed Police Service Commission, I think persons were nominated and appointed fairly recently. I don't know if they've gotten their instruments of appointment yet. But the reality is that they have to call upon the hierarchy of the police service to account for this, because this is a major egg in the face type of scandal.
Yeah. Mr. George, if you'd allow me, I just want to read a few statements, and it's really what the Master of the High Court, Sarah De Silva, had to say, all right? So we're speaking about the police failed to comply with court directives, including the timely preparation and prosecution of the case. So we're going to the Master of the High Court, Sarah De Silva now. De Silva had issued instructions to the police in preparation for the case. These were disregarded and no explanation was given for their non-compliance. A stand-in police prosecutor was unable to offer any explanation or respond to the defense attorney's application for the case to be dismissed. Now, none of the police complainants, the officers who charged the 7, were at the virtual hearings. Let me read that again. None of the police complainants, the officers who charged the 7, were at the virtual hearings. I don't know about you, Mr. George, but it gives the impression that the officers who should have had the responsibility to really prosecute this matter, that they, again, judging from what we're seeing here, that they turned a blind eye to this issue. And to the instructions, and to the instructions of the Master of the High Court.
This is beyond that. This is deaf, dumb, and blind, because you're not listening to the Master, so you're deaf. You're not producing the evidence. You're not saying anything in terms of it, so you're dumb. And you're clearly not seeing how you are failing the justice system by your not complying with these directions. So therefore you're deaf, dumb, and blind, because it appears that there was something going on in this matter. Because how do you explain these, multiple failures on the part of the police? So I mean, people love to blame the judicial system and the judiciary and say, well, the police do their hard work, and then the judiciary would, not, play their role sufficiently or effectively. You can't blame the judiciary in this one. This one is clearly a failure of the police, who were responsible for getting that evidence together in preparation for this matter to be ready for hearing. And the master exercised her discretion as she's entitled to, if it is that she feels that you are not doing your job properly, and worse yet, you are not offering a proper explanation. The standing prosecutor could not offer any excuse.
Yes.
The complainants themselves were not present, so the persons who would best be able to say, well, okay, look, yes, we have the statements prepared, but we didn't get it sworn yet. If you had only come to say that, the master might have ruled differently, because she might say, well, okay, look, there's some progress. At least the statements were prepared, But the thing is, there's nothing proffered or offered. And how does that look for the public? And this is what I keep emphasizing. You want the public to cooperate with the police. You want the public to give information to the police. How would people feel? Think of the persons who would have given this information initially to the police. Who would have reported this matter, who would have, turned over the video footage to the police. How do they feel now? They feel like, well, not only is it a massive waste of their time and energy and effort, but it appears that there's something operating in the background to ensure that these officers do not see justice, in the court system. Remember also, Marlon, when there was the DSS raid and we saw the video footage of officers stuffing money behind their police bulletproof vests and in their pockets. Remember those videos? Have those officers ever, faced trial and conviction? You ask yourself that. So, I mean, we have had repeated examples. And if it is that police officers have that confidence that they can do wrong and get away with it, we will never fix the system. We will never solve the problems in Trinidad and Tobago,
But, Mr. George, and this is just my impression from it, judging from what I've seen here in the media, what is being reported and what the Master of the High Court is saying, I get the impression that these police officers who were prosecuting this matter, that they had a discretion, that's what I'm getting at, that they felt they had a discretion in this matter. My personal view is that shouldn't this become automatic? That this is our job. We have to carry out our duties, and we have to at least appear and give arguments in connection with this matter. Why is there this impression that, they had a discretion to appear in this matter, to prosecute this matter or not?
The reason why you see that type of attitude is because they are basically thumbing their noses at the hierarchy of the police service and basically saying, listen, y'all can't do me anything because we know you. You remember a former commissioner of police who described himself as a toothless bulldog, Basically, he said, look, I can't do anything, And you remember the PCA has repeatedly complained, right? The Police Complaints Authority, that they do not have enough power and investigative authority. They do not have the power to go in and, demand the documents from the police service and, subpoena them and, take charge of those. They have to go through a request process, and it's if the police decide to comply. So therefore, the entire system militates against the accountability of these lower officers, and therefore they are comfortable. That's what I'm telling you, Marlon. They are comfortable because as far as they're concerned, listen, you all could say what you want, do what you want. We realize that you are not doing anything. The thing is, the Commissioner of Police has the power of dismissal. The Commissioner of Police can fire police officers. And I mean, I don't understand why that authority is not being used and exercised to bring rogue officers to heel. You know, we have seen so many instances of scenarios where there ought to have been, you know, some firm, decisive action. In other countries, they dismiss police officers, you know, like that, you know, for these things. You know, and as far as they're concerned, okay, you could fight up and you could bring whatever action you want, but we are not keeping you in the service. And that's a decision that you are fully entitled to make once there's sufficient evidence to show that this officer has failed in duties.
Yes.
You know, and that's the type of firm, decisive leadership that is needed in the TTPS. And sadly, we do not have it. That's the reality, Marlon. And we have to start calling a spade, because let me tell you, Marlon, unless we put a stop to this very soon, it's going to get worse. Because we are down a slippery slope, Marlon. Because police officers, you know, they don't have any regard for the hierarchy of the TTPS, because as far as they're concerned, listen, you're just making noise, you know, you really and truly are not able to do us anything. So there's no sanction, there's no repercussion, there's no penalty.
Mr. George, I have just...
Another thing I've complained about, Marlon, is, you know, even when they do some of these investigations, then they have these officers on suspension with pay. So in other words, the rogue officer now being paid, he's not working, he's probably up in New York earning US dollars on top of that. You know, and I mean, the nonsense just continues.
Yes, Mr. George, I just have about...
When are we going to draw a line in the sand?
I just have about a minute again, but a view has been expressed that this is not the end of this matter. The view has been expressed that these officers can be arrested and charged again.
Marlon, well, the thing is, that is going to be a lot more difficult than if they had done what they were supposed to do in the first place. Because remember, the file had not even been submitted to the DPP from the police for the DPP to take over the prosecution. Yes. You know, so the question would be now whether you're exposing them to double jeopardy, whether the matter is res judicata, you know, so therefore, I mean, why are you creating that difficult scenario? In other words, you're trying to push a stone roller up a hill now, when you had a nice, easy path of just driving the stone roller down the hill, and you refuse to do that. You know, it's like, you know, the old people say, you're taking a flambeau in the night to go and look for things you didn't look for during the daytime. Why make it so difficult now when you had the opportunities, repeated opportunities the master gave them to put their house in order, and for some reason or the other, not a scenario of the ball being dropped. I insist, Marlon, this looks like a case of the ball being buried and hidden away forever.
Yeah. Mr. George, as always, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. We always appreciate it. Bye for now, sir.
It's a pleasure. Have a great morning. Thank you.